Hi, I'm going to show you this morning how to carve and alter these bowls that I threw earlier on, and they are going to be converted into chickens, which I have made these ones yesterday, and they're basically creamers, but they're made to look like chickens. So I have a variety of these. They're all different, and you can play when you're doing something like this. There's not really a rule to it. So basically textures, hand cutting, different directions. I mean, the wings are overlapping the body in that place. On the other one, they're below, so you can really just play. I mean, there's so many variations when you do something like this. The tail can go up, the tail can go down. You can hold them like this to pour. So that's the idea with the tail going down. But they also work if the tail goes up. You can also pour just like that. All right, so there's different variations. So let's just get these. There you go. So this was thrown. It's very sticky, really soft in the bottom, and at the top it is bendable. I can move that in easily, but it's firmed up enough so I don't really stick to it when I'm touching it. So it's a good idea to have a sponge with you for wiping your hands down as you're doing it. You'll need some water, a couple of nice brushes, and a variety of carving tools, cutting tools, carving tools. So you should be able to, search a bunch of those out. But the first thing you do when you're doing one of these is you have to make sure it's soft enough that you squish it like that. And you can do this as much as you want. These can be very narrow and oval, or they could be more rounded, as some of those are. But basically, you take a paintbrush and choose which side you're going to have the spout, and you simply, like you would normally pull a spout, let's see if I can show you a bit easier, and just kind of rolling the brush backwards and forwards, keeping enough water on the bristles to lubricate this. And with every spout you've ever pulled, there's the dilemma about, is it going to drip or is it going to pour, perfectly, as they would say. And the dilemma about spouts is always the same. The thinner you make the edge of your spout, the less it will drip. The more vulnerable that spout becomes, the thinner it becomes. So basically, you have to choose with your ware that you're going to make it durable and have maybe one little drip, or it's going to be less durable, so easy to chip, but it'll be perfect, it won't drip. And Robin Hopper told me years ago that to stop a piece dripping, you just dab a bit of butter on there before you pour out of it, and it won't drip. And because oil and water don't mix, of course, so the butter, it's food safe, obviously, but it will stop it from dripping. And I always tell customers, when you pour something, just drag the drip, the spout, just over the edge of the coffee cup if you're worried about a drip going down, and it'll pull it right off. All right, let me have a sip of tea. An old mug when I used to do earthenware. Okay, so there we have it. You can see the spout, and then we need to design a wing. I'm just using this tool that has a little sharp blade on the end. I like the wing to sort of start near the spout, but have enough there that the liquid won't pour over the edge. So you just lightly draw down as much as you want to have a wing. And so when you've actually got this light sketch of where you want it to be, you cut down. This is an X-Acto knife, so it's very sharp. If you've got children in your studio, be careful with these blades, they're like scalpels. And that's got through, and then this clay is very sticky, so this tends to want to stay in place. And then I flatten it out, just carefully. and curve it slightly the other way, and then put it on the other side, line it up carefully so it's right at the rim. Just give it a little pressure down there so you can then cut the same wing. It's a stencil basically giving you the ability to duplicate the size of the wing that you previously cut. And then you've got two. There you go, let's pull them apart. I'm going to now make this one go back to what it was. It's so soft that you can reform the wing. See, it's not sticking to my fingers, so really that's just a matter of you telling it's bend enough, it doesn't crack when you bend it. So that's basically what it should be. And then, make sure your wheel head is clean. I put both of these wings down, and I think I'm going to get a piece of paper. There you go, there's my Uline catalogue that's still going strong. So basically I'm going to stop it sticking to the wheel head. Okay, so I have my wheel car here, and it's full of stamps underneath here. So you can, if you've got stamps, use stamps. If you don't, you can make some stamps, or you can use bits of wood to texture, whatever you want to do. But we have a variety of stamps that I think would be appropriate here. I was looking for this one. This one's quite good. It's my regular spiral stamp. But I'm just simply going to, can you see this? I'm going to press it carefully. So I've got some little curves there, and then I'm going to use my little wooden tool here to kind of give the idea, like a wing of a bird has. You've got this sort of feathers overlapping, and then you also have generally some lines, and I'm going to duplicate that on this side. Now there's no reason you have to do something that's literal. You can actually decide to do something totally kind of bizarre. I mean, it might be nicer. No rules, remember. A lot of stuff has to have a rule, but some stuff you don't have any rules. Just be creative, that's the one rule. Alright, so we've got two wings. They look fairly good, fairly consistent. So I'm now going to work on the edge up here before I get the wings on. I'm just going to smooth where I did my cut. And then the inside of this side over the opposite one there as well. I always support when I'm pressing with a brush because it does change the shape of the item you're working on. There you go. We make a whole bunch of these too with different shaped throne forms. I mean, we don't have to have tall handheld type pieces like this. It could be a big bowl for like gravy or sauce. Like a shallow bowl. So there's also, I may include one of those when I'm forming another one. I've got a slightly rounded bowl here, I can do that. But, so I'll make two of these in the video and then show pictures of them all at the end of different shapes, I guess. That may be the way to go. I'm firing my gas kiln now. I've started, it's warmed up a little bit. So you decide where you want this wing to go. I want this wing to go from here and overlap that gap there, because that will raise the height of the liquid that we can put inside here as well. So I'm going to just brush, since this is so soft, it'll create slip on the surface. And the same here, and over in the opposite part there. I'm brushing a lot larger area than I really need to, just because I can position and move around a little bit at that point. So I've got it nice and wet there. Then turn over your wings I just suddenly thought you could make angel wings. I bet somebody will make some angels out of doing something like this. I have one of my students in my workshops who used to do really well, nicely sculpted little angels. So you see, just creating slip by brushing like this. And this brush is a very soft brush, but it's got a little stiffness to it, I would say. So it's not like a total watercolor brush. Okay, so I'm not scoring it because it's already soft. You saw how easy we bend everything here, so you don't need to really score anything. Just a little bit of pressure. Just wet the area where you think it's going to go and a bit bigger area. Alright, you still seeing this? Okay. So, pick your wing up and then just hold it so you think you're going to get it where it's going to go. I want it to touch over here and be over here too. So, and just raise the height a little bit so I can actually hold more liquid in this than I think that I can at the moment. And then I'm just moving my thumb in the place where I want it to join there. And over here, and you know, really kind of moving it and sticking it there. And then place it down, because it's wet all the way along there, remember? And so I can just put some pressure on, and we will have a seal. No, we've got a bird. No, it's a seal. There's a seal in between the two layers of clay here. Alright, now I'm going to do the same to the other side, just in case it's dried out during that time. I'm just going to wet this again. Whoop. That paper needs to be shorter. Catching on my bag of clay. Actually, I don't need it there. Now I'm picking this up. Alright, so we've got my wing. Now, this is the tricky part, because we're trying to keep this symmetrical. So you have to eyeball this without sticking it down, and just kind of take a look from the front, and then take a look from the back. I think it needs to go just a touch further back. Because it was overlapping the back. Then I'll take a look from above. It still needs to go a touch further back, so I'm just going to push it back a tiny bit, because it definitely wants to overlap quite a bit there. And then I need to look at the back. It still needs to come up a touch here. So you're just repositioning until you look like you've got it fairly symmetrical, and then you can do your pressure. Obviously don't press so hard that you actually get rid of your texture. And then I would press this down so that it's rounded to almost touching the actual bird body, because when you're glazing these, I actually broke one of the wings when I was glazing once, because there was a gap underneath and I was holding it, it just snapped. So I would tell you to try to make sure that they're actually touching, and then you just go around and you simply clean up the join area. Same on the other side here. There we go. That gets rid of any sharp edges in the clay, because remember, when clay is fired, it can become really sharp. They make knives out of ceramics. So I'm just trying to, and then on the inside it looks pretty good already, but just give yourself a little brush stroke over there, just to make sure that it's actually clean up on the inside. See, it's a nice join. And then you can take a look at your piece and say, now what shape do we really want this to be? Because it's so movable at the moment, so bendable that you can change anything. So I might decide that, yeah, I think I want that spout to be a little closer together. And work on it, brush it back in. And then the tail, it's a good idea to wet this a little bit. Not too much depending on your clay, because it can get so floppy that it will actually collapse. So just be very careful here. And then put your hand behind and simply start using your brush to bend the shape of the tail with whatever you want to do. You can actually, if you're very careful, open it flat, or you could bend it over completely. And you'll just let the clay to tell you what it wants to be able to do, actually, I would say, in this point. Because the top of this piece on this one is a little stiffer at the top there, but I can easily flatten it like that, and then just curve over like that. My finger is right underneath the rim of the bowl of the tail, like that. And you just have to watch the clay and decide if you can go all the way or you can just leave it more vertical, because I'll do both. I mean, you can hold these pieces in one hand, they're fairly small, and these are going to shrink, so you don't have to have this. But I like the idea that you can also hold it with your finger underneath and pour. So I'm going to push it all the way on this piece just to show you. And it wasn't bad, it's just that I've seen them crack if the clay's a little short, if it's got grog in it. I've seen pieces crack when I've made them. So, and this clay is number 516 from Pottery Supply House in Toronto. So if you want to look at the clay specifications, you can actually go look at that clay and see whether they make a clay nearby you, wherever you are, that's similar to it. And then I like that curve to be nice there too. So I'm just going to work on that curve. There's something in our eyes, I think, when we see something that, it depends on our nature of course, but that will be upset by something if there's just a little change in a curve. We can visualize such little changes, and it's how we decide a piece is a good form or not. Alright, so let's look at it, see if it's, how even is it? Somebody mentioned in my garden, I have everything in rows, and it's my nature. I like things to be orderly. Although my studio sometimes is pretty chaotic. Alright, and then this brush. I have everything in place, as they would say. I know where it all is. Alright, so now, getting a little piece of clay. Let's see what we have in here. I've got a bag of the same type of clay in here. I just make a ball. I've got two more things I think to put on here yet, and then a little carving. So take your X-Acto knife again, make a ball, cut it in half, so you know you've got two pieces the same size, and then where you're going to put the eyes. And now you could also, I mean, change this. I mean, I squish down one side, squish down the other side. I have a slanted eye rather than a round eye. So I kind of like that. Put that on there. Now I know I can do the same to this one. They'll be the same size. The eyes are very interesting. You can really play around with them. And then look from the front once again to see whether they're on a good level, and then move them backwards and forwards till you feel like they're stuck. Up and down, side to side, whichever way you want to move them. You can reposition by dipping your wooden tool and just pushing down like that. It will move the piece without leaving a dent in it. That one's pretty good anyway, so. Okay, so we've got the general eye shape there. I've still got to do some work on it, but. So on the top, I could do some little lines by pressing my tool in. Kind of looks like a bit like eyebrows, I guess, or eyelashes. And then I could take the end of another tool that's and put like a little round shape in there. I dip the tool in water before I press, remember, so it doesn't stick. And then make sure I haven't changed my spout too much. And then take a look again. Always about, have you changed the curve? Is it still got a nice smoothness to it? And of course, at this point, you could also just go like this and totally make it oval again, because it does seem to get more rounded. These were a lot more oval yesterday when I left last night than when I came in this morning. So the clay has a memory, and it does try to remember where it wants to be. So the back of the tail, you know, you could do some sgraffito here, just carving in. Sgraffito is used generally through one color to another. This is just straight clay carving. And then, you know, you could do some angled carving. The glaze will love to sit in these little lines if you use a semi-transparent or a transparent, because it always gets slightly darker when it's in a creviced line. And when you carve, remember that you can actually, don't get them too wet, because they actually will fall off. Clay gets softer and softer the more you use it, especially if you're adding a brush with water on it. Alright, so I won't touch that anymore. That's the end of that, because I don't want it to fall off. And then the front of the chicken, oh, we've got to put his little crop on there. And I've been pondering, and I haven't done it yet, whether to put a crop on the top, join these two pieces together and have a crop going over there. So I may make one of these like that. But chickens have a crop underneath their neck, and then they have a comb. So I'm just wetting that again, like we did, and then I'll just simply stick that there, take a look, make sure it's good. And then it's very soft clay, so I'm just going to smooth in with the tool, just to kind of use the edge of the tool to smooth the joint in there. I'm doing all these time-consuming pieces because, you know, with all the lockdowns that we've been having, obviously I've got lots of inventory because I make things every day, but we don't have any customers. So I decided I would just make a whole bunch of things that, you know, are not really money-maker ideas, but they're just time-consuming, and so I've been doing a lot more carved pieces and, you know, just things that take a while. One day we'll be opened up. I think maybe this week it might give us a chance to open up again, because our cases are only 33 yesterday. It's a small province, so that's a lot for a small province. Okay, so we got the chicken. I can still put some little carved marks down here. Actually, I know what I can do. I can start here and go 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know I've got to go 1 to 5. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by doing counting, I can get them the same number and it will look even. Okay, so I think that's it for that one. And let's see, how soft is that up there? It's pretty soft. I'm just wondering if I could actually, here's the dilemma. If you're going to put a comb on top of the chicken, then it's going to have a smaller place to pour from, because I have to close this up. So for this one, the one with the comb, I think I would have a larger area up here. So I'm going to leave this one alone, and we'll do it to the next one. Okay, so it's your close up here, I think. Actually, I'll lift this up to you. So that's what we just made. And the bottom of the piece here you can't trim because of all the sculpting and hand building. So basically you're just going to sponge them off. So make sure when you, like I did when we threw these, you give yourself a nice big foot that when you sponge it off it'll look nice. Alright, so there we go. Let's go back on then. There's one that's been sponged off. So basically, there we go. We'll have a flock of chickens coming out of the kiln eventually. Okay, hope that was helpful. I'll make a variety of different shapes of these, as I said, and I will put photographs of them as well as you'll see them come out of the kiln. Thanks very much again.